Glitter Budget with your hosts, Anjanette.
And Jess.
And in today's episode, we're continuing our Buffy series with Season 6.
Woo!
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. This season in particular is kind of like hotly debated between, amongst the Buffy fans. And I, for the longest time, it was like my least favorite season. And now, many moons later, I love them all. I love them all for their different for different reasons and whatever, but this is a very dark season. It's very different from the previous 5 seasons.
Yeah, it definitely takes a different tone dramatically. I think early on, definitely didn't like it, but then as the season started to unfold a little bit, I think the older that I got, which I think is key to whether you like it or not. I started to appreciate it more, and it's just darker tone and just a more serious tone. I ended up liking it. I think I prefer season 6 to season 5 for the most part.
There are some very good episodes in season 6. I think that and I don't know. I think season 5 for me, nostalgia reasons, because I can definitely recall watching that live.
Yeah.
That's why I put that among the a little bit higher than the rest. But there are a lot of key pivotal episodes in this season. This is the season that has the musical episode.
Yes. Once more with feeling.
Yes. And that episode is actually a smidge longer than the other ones. And I remember when it aired, so the day it aired, UPN was having some kind of fucking problem, and the signal just stopped.
Oh.
And it wasn't just for our area, it was UPN as a whole. I'm pretty sure anyway. I remember reading on the internet at the time in other forums and stuff like that there are a lot of people upset at the time because this was people would somehow get a hold of the script beforehand and they would distribute it.
Oh.
So you could read the scripts and everything either right before it aired or when it aired. You would get you can get a hold of the script somehow. Yeah. And so that was the only way that we were able to find out what the fuck happened.
Oh man, that sucks. How far into the episode did you get?
It was almost done. How long is that episode? Hold on 1 second. It is... What the hell? It's not even telling me how long it is. Anyway, it's probably an extra 5 to 10 minutes. But it got up to... I think when... I'm pretty sure she met Sweets, who is the dancing devil or whatever.
Yeah. So that's pretty far into the... That's almost right at the very end.
Yeah, but you didn't fight. You met him, but you didn't know what happened.
Right.
So
that's
you didn't
painful.
find out that. And then I think it came back on when the credits were rolling.
It's even worse.
Yeah, I just I don't remember what happened after that, but it's it's not that much longer than a regular episode, but it was just long enough. So I don't know if that was just an issue with UPN at the time, or if they're nah, you can't have an episode of a TV show that's longer than what it's supposed to be in its allotted time. But I think they tried to air it with either fewer commercials or the commercials were supposed to be shorter so that it could try to get in the time frame. Because normally what you would get, including most episodes for an hour-long show on a regular basic cable network, they're 42 minutes.
Yeah.
So it allows for about 18 minutes of commercial time. So in that particular episode, I think they either tried to cut out the commercials altogether / just greatly reduce how many commercials there were.
Yeah.
And ended up not happening.
Fuckers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No. Yeah, I don't know. I vaguely remember. I definitely watched season 5 when it aired. We discussed that. And then I vaguely remember watching some of season 6 when it aired, but definitely not all of it. Because I do remember trying to figure out of like just being under the impression that Buffy was done, and then hearing that it was coming back of like, well, how are they supposed to make this work?
Yeah.
You know?
I remember all like the TV Guide and Entertainment Weekly like featuring Buffy on the cover, saying like Buffy's back or like back from the dead and stuff like that. It was pretty cool. But so in the start of this season is it's a 2-part episode, Bargaining Part 1 and 2. And it's about the rest of the Scoobies dealing with the daily like struggles of fighting demons because they're still living on a hellmouth, fighting demons without the Slayer.
Yes.
But they have to make it seem like the Slayer is still a thing in that area. So they rebuilt the Buffy bot, and the Buffy bot is acting as the Slayer to try to make sure that other demons don't find out.
Right, that it's up for grabs.
Mm-hmm. But that's kind of precisely what happens because the Buffy bot ends up getting torn apart by a demon biker gang.
Yeah.
And so while all the Scoobies are dealing with life without the Slayer, Xander, Willow, Anya, and Tara are plotting to bring Buffy back from the dead. Because Willow is kind of really starting to get into like big, powerful magic, and they're not willing to let their friend go, essentially.
Yeah.
Which I think a lot of people can relate to when it comes to death, is like, that's part of the grieving process, is you have to accept it. And they never got to that point.
No. And Giles, meanwhile, he feels like he's no longer needed. He's back in England.
Mm-hmm.
So he leaves. So there's no like.
Oh, he hasn't left yet. He's there in the beginning.
Yeah. But once they perform the actual. Like, he doesn't know that they're doing this ritual.
Yeah.
And when she comes back. So, like, there's no overseeing.
Yeah, like
voice of reason.
He does leave, and then he comes back when he finds out that.
Yeah.
She's alive again.
There's no voice of reason to be like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, this could go south 5 ways to Sunday. Like, this is stuff that you should not be doing, just in general.
Mm-hmm. And essentially the only people that don't know are Spike and Dawn.
Right.
And Giles, obviously. But, like, other than that, like, the other 4 know. And they're plotting, they're scheming, and they're kind of don't.
Too, like, last season, Dawn tried to bring back her mom, and they were like, no. Bad things had happened. You're not going to bring back your mother. Like, you can't do this.
And I think Willow's argument for that was that, like, Joyce had died a natural death.
Right.
Whereas Buffy died a mystical death, which is why she thinks that it's possible to bring her back, and that's not defying the laws of nature.
Mm-hmm.
But it does still involve very dark magic, indeed, because things that are needed, which you see Willow kill a fawn to get its blood.
Yeah.
It's pretty fucked up.
She throws up a snake.
Yeah. But anyway, so they're performing this ritual, and it ends up getting interrupted by that demon biker gang. And they think that the spell didn't work. They're like, we have to try to do it again. It's like, no, it literally almost killed you, Willow. We can't do it again.
Not only that, but they had like that one piece of whatever the fuck urn or not urn the.
It was essentially, I think it wasn't
basically
an urn.
Yeah, it was like the last one or something. It was like really hard to find. They broke it.
Yeah.
So there was, but yeah, just I think like you said, just the idea of not being able to let go and then having this kind of like foolish. I'm able to do any type of magic at this point. Like, nothing's doesn't matter what the consequences are.
Yeah.
Nothing's above me. I can like, execute this. But they think it doesn't work, and they also don't consider like how she's going to come out of the ground.
Yeah.
So it ends up working. She ends up coming back and having to like claw her way out
Of her own grave.
into this town that's now been overtaken by biker gangs. So it looks
Like hell.
apocalyptic. Like,
yeah. So it turns out that Buffy was in some kind of heaven dimension because it's a little squiggly when it comes to, like, there's no heaven, hell. There's hell dimensions and heaven dimensions. There's also multiple just dimensions in general. So she was in, long story short, she was at peace. She felt like she was done with her duty. She was happy. She was peaceful. She felt like safe. She felt like her family and friends were okay. And then a very traumatizing experience, I'm sure, to crawl out of your own grave into that. I can only imagine just how traumatic.
just that, and then once you start to realize that that isn't as bad as it looks, like the whole world, like she did save the day. This isn't the demon dimension like spilled over. It's just one group of assholes to like back into being a slayer that she didn't fucking want, that she thought she was done with, to
Yeah.
finding out that like since she was gone and Joyce is dead, that they're fucking broke.
Yeah.
She didn't have to deal with all of that. I think it's just again one of those things of like not being able to let go, that them doing that just for very selfish reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Like nobody ever considers, like they always consider the bad because that's what they're used to dealing with. Nobody ever considers that, hey, like maybe she is in heaven.
Yeah.
Maybe she doesn't want to be fucked with right now. Like,
Mm-hmm. I think, like, definitely all the things that no one actually thinks about dealing with when it comes to someone's death. So, like, Buffy having to deal with Joyce's death and the debt that comes after that.
yeah.
Like, that's a huge, like, that's just a huge stress on top of already being, like, grieving the loss of a loved one. And then so Willow and Tara have moved into Buffy's house at this point too,
Oh yeah.
but haven't really done much in the way of helping out. I'm assuming because they're still going to school.
So I was kind of wondering that though. You know what I mean? Like, so Joyce is gone, been gone for a while. Now Buffy's gone, and you guys decide to move in, which is fine, whatever, to help Dawn. You know what I mean? Like, try to keep some semblance of like normally and support and stuff like that going on. But like, y'all motherfuckers just squatting for free? Like,
Yeah.
y'all didn't get a part-time job at least, like something. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like,
Yeah. So that's what, like, they bring it up a little bit in one of the episodes where, like, any of the savings that I think Joyce had went to all of her medical bills
Yeah.
after dying, and like funeral expenses and all that kind of stuff. And so there wasn't much. Like, I think whatever Joyce had was gone towards stuff that needed to be paid off.
yeah.
So I don't know if there's like a mortgage on the house or anything like that, but as far as I know, they weren't paying it. So, but they still, like, there's still bills that need to be paid in general. Any kind of repairs that need to be done in the house. That actually ends up happening. Like, one of the pipes burst.
Yeah.
And Buffy, along with dealing with being alive again, has to deal with this shit. And she tries to go to the bank to get a loan, but she's never had a job. She has no credit. The bank is obviously going to be like, no.
No.
And that's when we're introduced to the big bad, sort of, kind of. More like the big annoyance for this season is the trio. And I think that's why a lot of people ended up not liking season 6 because of the trio.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess I would argue, like, I guess there could. I don't know. I mean, I would say that they're the consistent villain leading up to what eventually became the big bad.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't pin them as the big bad. I would say that.
I would say Warren is definitely.
Yeah. And again, though, I think, because, I mean, obviously, like, we were, the trio was being built up
Mm-hmm.
They didn't just come out of nowhere. Like, we've been introduced to some of their characters and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it was almost kind of like appropriate because, she's being thrown back into a world that she was completely fucking fine not being in, to having to deal with a whole bunch of bullshit that this was, like you said, kind of just an annoyance that wasn't taken seriously because they weren't necessarily big bads.
Yeah.
Like they were able to like harness some power here and there, but realistically, like it wasn't anything crazy. Um, but I think they're consequences of just being human beings and not thinking things through and weren't being like a fucking sociopath.
Yeah. Like, you see a lot of the dark shit. Like, it starts off of like they're 3 nerds
Yeah.
that are using supernatural forces to their advantage. So Andrew, who is Tucker's brother that set the demon dogs loose on the prom, he has the ability to control demons. And Andrew can use a bit of magic. He's got the magic bone. And Warren is good with robotics and technology and all that kind of stuff and electronics and whatnot. So they combine their forces and they have like a list of things that they want. They want babes, they want money, and all this kind of stuff. So it starts off fairly innocent.
Yeah.
And then they view Buffy as kind of like the fly in the ointment, like trying to like she's an annoyance. We gotta kind of get rid of her because she's gonna mess with our shit. She's gonna ruin our plans.
Yeah.
And they can't know. She can't know that we're a thing. So we're gonna show her that we're serious stuff, and we're just gonna try to like not kill her, but like move her the fuck on.
Yeah.
Get her away from us. And so they become like a thorn in the side of Buffy, and she's like, these guys are fucking, they're stupid, but they have to go because they're messing with forces that shouldn't be messed with.
And I think too, like I said, I think just looking at how that eventually develops, again, it's just looking at the human psyche, which is why I think a lot of people probably didn't like it because, while it has to do with some supernatural stuff because of like, them using magic and bringing in demons occasionally, like at the end of the day, they're just 3 dudes that have a really unhealthy fucking view of the world and a really unhealthy relationship with each other.
Yeah.
Especially with Warren being the leader and again, just being like a fucking soulless piece of shit.
Yeah.
So I think that's where it kind of threw off what we were used to seeing as a viewer.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I kind of liked about it, though.
Yeah, because like a lot of people don't want to. Actual humans acting in such a way makes people uncomfortable, but there are a lot of people that love serial killers and shit like that, and so I feel like that's kind of why, like, the older you get, you end up kind of liking, or at least I ended up liking this season more, and I don't hate the trio. I do like analyzing, like you said, the psychology behind who they are and what they're doing and all that kind of stuff, and it makes you really loathe Warren for what he's done in the past, what he does throughout this season, and then what he ends up doing at the end of the season.
And I think too, because they are humans, and even though they are a threat, they're still humans. So this isn't somebody that Buffy can just go and kill and get rid of, and you're done. And it's also, again, like certain things they're messing with that you can't exactly just go to the police with either.
Yeah.
So I think that's another weird element of, trying to handle this whole situation. But again, I think at the end of the day, just their mistake of not taking them as seriously as they should have.
Yeah.
So then, with the season 2, you start to see Willow, like as we mentioned before, get really, 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 really heavy into the magic, and but still though, like having Tara and like a lot of other people start to kind of catch on, starting to notice that she's using magic for like just everyday stuff or research and things of that nature that you really don't need to use magics for. Obviously, like, and I think like, so I started to pick up on it like a little bit here and there with like, some of the nuances, but I think one of like the biggest things where I was like, oh fuck, like she really is like very much addicted, and ruining everything is when Giles came back when she was, hey, I did it. Like, we brought Buffy back.
Yeah.
And he was just, she comes in, they're talking, and she's like, you stupid, stupid girl.
Yeah.
And she's just like, you should be fucking thanking me. Like, nobody else could have done this. Like,
Yeah.
I was able to pull it off. What consequences could there possibly have been? Like, she was already dead, and just him of like, who the hell are you?
Yeah.
Like, who are you? Like, you used to be this person who respected the balance of nature, and why something like this would be inherently wrong, and the risks of possibly like ripping open a different dimension to bring in.
Yeah. And there was a consequence to them bringing her back. They there was some kind of like demon hitchhiker that
Oh yeah.
came over with Buffy and ended up like possessing different people throughout the Scoobies. And they dealt with that, but that was one of the consequences that could have happened. And had any of them consulted either Giles or Spike, he would have told you, like, we already went through this shit with Joyce and Dawn. Like, there's always a consequence. There's always a trade-off. That's why magic can't be trusted. Because
always a balance.
Yeah, in order for one thing to happen, you have to take another thing away. And they show that in the first episode of season 5, when Willow starts a fire, and then it starts downpouring.
Yeah.
And Willow says it wasn't her, but it was probably her.
Yeah.
Because why else would it be bright, clear, sunny skies, and then whoosh, right after coinky dink? Methinks not.
Yeah. But I remember, like, just one, how well, like, Giles delivered that whole speech, but then just, again, like, her just complete arrogance and just pigheadedness of, like, not wanting to take any type of, like, ownership to this, not looking at the consequences, like, nothing, of just that irrational behavior and thought process behind it. I was like, oh my God, like,
yeah. Like, not willing to admit that magic is dangerous.
Yeah. But because it worked out fine.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, not even being willing to, like, even entertain the idea that, like, you got lucky, like, stupid lucky.
Mm-hmm.
And him even admitting, just like, when she said, like, nobody else could do this, he's like, there's plenty of other people who could fucking do it, and you don't want to meet them.
Yes.
And she's like, oh, well, yeah, you're probably right, but I'm good. It's just like that constant, like, you got to talk your way around it, and you got to talk yourself, like, out of it, and just, come up with all these justifications for your behavior. It's just such classic addict behavior.
Yeah.
It was just, but that just spills into, like, the rest of her character development throughout the season.
Yeah. So, like, a few episodes after that, there's an episode where Dawn is trying to, like, fit in with different people. She's in high school now.
Yeah. Baby girl's growing up so fast.
She done grown up. But so she is trying to fit in and be popular and be cool. And there are these older guys with Letterman's jackets and all that kind of stuff. And I believe it's Halloween.
Yeah, I think this is the classic Halloween episode.
Yes, and they always have Halloween episodes on an even numbered season. 2, 4, and 6. So she tries, there's like essentially a double date situation going on with her and her friend and these two guys. And there's like this creepy house on the street that everyone always avoids because it seems like this just creepy old man that lives there, and he seems like this kind of like, you just seems like a serial killer.
Yeah.
But they're like, okay, no, we're gonna go in there. Like, they're trying to do like daring teenager stuff. Go in, turns out like he really is just a nice old man, but the guys are vampires. And so like that's kind of like a classic coming of age, like you're trying to fit in and you see her struggle with like, I want to do stuff, but I don't want to do stuff, and I want to do stuff, and I don't want to do stuff.
It's just like the ass of like, was that your first kiss? Like, no, I totally. No, I kiss all the time.
Yeah.
Not like I'm a kiss slut. Not like that. But not my first time. No.
Yeah. And she's like, yeah, no, it was totally my first time. Like, it was really wet, and I'm sorry. But that was her first fight with a vampire, pretty much on her own. Like, Buffy and others came to save the day near the end. But in that same episode, Tara again is expressing to Willow her concerns for her use of magic. Like, she literally does everything in her power to use magic, even for like the littlest things. And it's like, well, we could have gone to the store to get decorations. We didn't have to like
Oh yeah.
pull decorations out of nowhere. You know what I mean? And so they have a fight, and Willow uses a memory spell to make Tara forget the fight ever happened.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the next episode after that, which is the musical episode, in that episode, essentially a singing demon is summoned to the town of Sunnydale. The plot sounds ridiculous, but it's a good episode. And everyone is like telling all of their troubles and everything in song.
Yeah.
So Xander and Anya have announced their engagement, which is something that they've been hiding since the previous season. They finally announce it, but they both have trepidations. They're both like worried that like Anya's worried that he's like Xander's gonna leave her. Xander's worried that she's gonna leave him because she's gonna realize that he's just like some kind of nothing and nobody, that he's gonna ruin her life, and she thinks that she's gonna get hurt again and blah blah blah. And they tell each other that in song, which is something that they've been hiding for so long, and they have this song, I'll Never Tell.
Yeah. I like that. Like that was probably one of my favorites though, just the way that it was done.
Yeah. It's a cute little song. I like all the songs actually. In the beginning of the musical, it's Buffy explaining that she's just kind of going through the motions, that she's just mimicking life as it was. She's just trying to pretend like everything is normal, but it's hard. And she's thinking that people are starting to catch on.
Yeah.
Like she's just numb going through everything right now. And she's not really dealing with anything. And Spike has a song where he's just like, you keep coming to me, but you don't want anything to do with me. Like, what the fuck do you want?
Yeah. Like what is this?
Like, you're kind of afraid that like your friends are gonna find out that you're talking to me for like you're confiding in me, you're comforted by me, all this kind of stuff. Like, what? Just stop digging me around, because
Yeah.
you know how I feel about you. So stop. And Giles is like, hey, you got to deal with things on your own.
Yeah. Time to grow up now.
Like, I feel like I'm standing in the way of your growth.
Yeah.
And Tara finds out that Willow did a memory spell.
Which is like so fucked up. Like just think about it. You know what I mean? Like if that were realsies and you had like the potential to do something like that, of just every time you have an argument and you're wrong, and you, instead of just hashing it out, apologizing, trying to fix each other's like wrongdoings or whatever the fuck, and growing as a couple and moving on, like you just wipe the person's memory. Like how manipulative is that?
Oh God.
Like, holy shit.
It's beyond. And what makes it worse was that like Tara already had her mind scrambled by Glory.
Yeah.
She got it back. So like that's already like a sensitive thing for like, what I've been through. Why the fuck would you mess with my mind like that? Like that's beyond fucked up. And that's why I can't be with you. And then cut to the next episode where she fucks everyone's memory up. Willow does, not Tara.
Tabula rasa.
Yeah. So in that one, tabula rasa, it's Latin for a clean slate, essentially. And Willow tries to do the spell again. She didn't learn a lesson the first time.
Nope.
She tries to do the spell again. Ends up making it too powerful, and it affects everyone.
It's hilarious.
It's an amazing episode. Everyone forgets their memory. Everyone forgets their memory. Everyone
forgets who they are.
Forgets who they are.
Just complete amnesia. Like
So Giles has tickets to London, but it's just one ticket. So I guess we should backtrack and say like Giles is in the magic shop, which is where they've been having all of their meetings since the last season as well.
Yeah.
And so he runs the shop. Anya helps run it as well. And so everyone, when they're affected by the memory spell, they fall asleep and they wake up and everyone's in the magic shop. So when they wake up, Giles and Anya think that they're together because she has an engagement ring.
Hilarious.
And she's on like the shop title or lease or whatever the fuck like that. And so they figure that they are together. They run the shop together. Xander thinks that he's some rando. Everyone has like their IDs and everything like that, but except for Buffy and Spike. But Spike was trying to be undercover from these loan sharks, which is an actual shark that deals in kittens.
Out of like all of the like demons and stuff like that, that had been the most corniest.
Yes.
The fucking like I couldn't get past that like that. I mean, obviously like it's supposed to be ha-has, but I was like, really? The dude's just like a legit shark.
It was funny. Like a literal shark. It was awesome. Anyway, so Spike shows up to the magic shop in like this full tweed outfit. And I don't know where he got it from, but in the coat of it, it says Randy. And so since he's British and Giles is British, they surmise that they are father and son. And then there's the iconic line, Randy Giles? Why not just name me Horny Giles or Desperate for a Shag Giles? No wonder I hate you. But
didn't Giles say something of like, "Don't think you're too old for me to put you over my knee"? Like,
yes. But Buffy gives herself the name Joan. And Dawn laughs at her. It's like, what kind of name is Joan? She's like, well, what kind of name is... Oh, what the fuck?
Oh, because she had the fake ID.
Yeah. It was like some kind of random-ass name that I cannot remember right now. But it was stupid. She's like, well, what kind of name is... Blah? And that's how they figure out that they're sisters, because they argue like sisters.
Definitely accuracy in that whole thing.
Exactly.
I thought it was hilarious. So like when
Oh, Umad, because she's looking at her fucking necklace upside down. There we go. It came to me. So yeah, she has the necklace that says Dawn, but when she looks at it upside down,
Jesus Christ.
Umad.
I thought it was hilarious. So when like the loan sharks eventually track Spike down to the magic shop, and they're like, bring out Spike.
And they're like, they want spikes? What? And Spike's got all these stakes, and he's like, well, maybe we just got to give him these. But they eventually find out in the end that it was a memory spell, and Willow is in deep dookie by the end. So like, obviously, everyone finds out, Tara especially, and Tara's like, all right, moving out. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. Fuck you.
Yeah. I was like, the next episode or shortly after that she finally, how many seasons fucking later and how many years later, brings back, what's her tits?
Amy.
Yes.
That was the next episode, yeah. Smashed. So yeah, Amy has been a rat since season 2.
Long fucking time, man.
Yeah, so it's been like 4 years that she's been a rat. Lived a long rat life.
Right?
But yeah, so like Willow for a long time could not figure out how to turn Amy back. But then
bring somebody back from the fucking dead.
But can't turn a rat back into a human.
Honestly, I swear to God, I feel like they just kind of fucking forgot about her for a while.
What? I mean, yes and no, but sometimes they would, like, you would see Amy in the background.
Yeah, but I feel like they just kind of gave up or just forgot about, like, trying to bring her back.
I feel like I don't think forgot. They probably didn't have like I think they were waiting for like an instance like this or another like some reason to bring her back.
Oh, I don't mean like the creators. I meant like the characters.
Oh yeah, that character's definitely
Yeah, I
yes.
didn't mean like how are we gonna write her back in?
Oh yeah, then yes, then I think definitely Willow forgot.
Yeah. What a bitch.
Yep. I'd
Damn.
be like I would have been gnawing on the fucking cage when like you fucking
Yeah.
you bitch.
Taking my little sticks and stuff over, like, fix me.
Yeah. And like, I don't know how you can't figure it out. Running on my wheel all fucking night. Is this keeping you awake? We would be spiteful rats.
Yeah, I would find like every time they open my cage to clean it or something, I'd be bolting the fuck out,
Yeah.
looking around to see what spell books they have around. Just help me, help you, help me, help you.
Oh my god. But also, and this is the same episode, well, not really related to what we were just talking about, but this is the same episode where Spike still has his chip and he finds out that because he and Buffy get into an argument, he finds out that he can hurt Buffy without getting hurt himself.
Yeah. So something basically, she feels like something went wrong when Willow brought her back. When I mean, in reality, like you were dead, you weren't supposed to come back. So, i.e., you were no
Yes.
longer 100% human.
Yes.
Just how that works.
Mm-hmm. So when Spike finds this out, he goes to the trio and tries to find out, like, is there something wrong with the chip or is there something wrong with the girl? Chip is fine. So it's Buffy. He goes, confronts Buffy. It's like, hey, you're fucked up. And then they fuck so hard they bring a building down.
I do remember the first time I watched that episode, and I was like, "This is the dumbest thing I have possibly ever watched."
But as you get older, it's magical.
You know, even now, I'm like, really?
I
Like,
think I think you're just jealous you've never brought a building down.
probably. I mean, rewatching it. It's like they are leading up to the actual intercourse, like fighting at the same time.
Yes,
So, and it is a very dilapidated house,
it is.
but still, like, come on. Wow. Like, did we have to jump the shark with that?
Yep. I love it. Well, the thing is, like, you don't really realize it. So like they're throughout the rest of this season, they kind of go back and forth, and like what can be viewed to some people as a very toxic relationship.
It is.
And then I read a thread that someone was like, I never viewed the relationship as toxic. I viewed it as like a BDSM kind of relationship where they didn't actually, they never fully expressed or finished their contract and how they were supposed to conduct themselves with each other.
See, but that's an unhealthy, toxic relationship. Like, you can't view that as, oh, you can't view that as BDSM because that's not what BDSM is.
Well, it depends on how that person was conducting their relationship.
Yeah.
But also like how you view relationships in general, like you can view them as like they are using each other and abusing each other. And I do tend to agree with that because that's not how I would conduct
Yeah.
relationships. But I don't know how certain people in the lifestyle do it.
I mean, lifestyle friends, we have plenty of them out there. Please chime in, but that's not how you, that, I'm going to argue just on the very, very plain basics of how BDSM works.
Mm-hmm.
That's not it, period.
Yes.
You know, like you have to have that, like you said, open communication of like, this is what I'm into. This is what I'm okay with. This is not what I'm okay with. Are you cool? Cool. I'm cool. Cool. Cool.
Yes.
That's not what that was.
No, because they didn't actually go through
Any of that.
They just kind of how a lot of people in the lifestyle were cautioned against, like, hey, don't just jump into things because that's how you can get hurt. That's how you can like get hurt, not only physically, but emotionally
Yeah.
and psychologically.
I mean, I would agree that, listen, like, it is very obvious. Spike made it very plainly clear how he felt about Buffy. Like, he was head over heels for her, loved her, and unfortunately, due to that, despite the fact that he tried to, like, put boundaries up and realize, like, what she was doing a couple times, was going to take what he could get.
Yes.
And unfortunately, Buffy coming back of probably having some unspoken resentments towards her friends of pulling her out of heaven.
Yes.
The one person who was a little bit more understanding and was always willing to accept her as 100% who she was, flaws and all.
Yeah.
And 100% understand and accept, like, her duties as a Slayer, what that meant.
Yeah.
So, and I think, like I said, like, without her really expressing those resentments or really understanding why she was more comfortable talking to Spike about these kind of things, used him for that, very much so. And I think when it came to it, that sexual tension of her wanting to feel good and wanting a release, angrily spilled out onto him, and him being mad that, like, you can't just admit that, like, I could be good for you and we could be together and this is a thing.
Yeah.
But fine, like, if you're gonna put out, like, let's fucking do this.
Yes.
And there goes, like, the whole, I'm gonna use you for sex as I just want an outlet. I just want to disconnect and feel good, and I'm gonna unfortunately take it because I want some sort of connection with you, even though I know that, like, this is not okay.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's fucked up, man.
It is. So I agree. I think that I'm with Spike. I sided with Spike up until this is okay.
That episode.
My issue with this season is that for several seasons now they've been building up this thing with Spike on essentially he's not yet a vampire with a soul. That happens later this season.
Yeah.
But he is a vampire with a conscience.
Right. Yeah.
Which I think counts for a lot. So not having a soul, but still in certain ways trying to do good. You know? And he's been trying to prove that for a while now, and especially to Buffy. And yeah, he is like one of those guys that is just a button pusher. And don't lie, you know someone in real life who is like that.
Oh yeah.
But the one that there's an episode where Spike attempts to rape Buffy. It is completely out of character.
1,000%. Like, it didn't make any sense.
Like, no, and that was that BDSM person that made that thread that was trying to argue in that episode, saying, like, you know, that, like, she had communicated the entire time that, like, she was okay with it, and, like, they kept fighting, like, they would fight back and forth, blah blah blah. And I'm like, I don't really see your point. I just think this.
She needs help. I think this person who made this thread is probably in a really unhealthy relationship, and you should probably go seek counsel.
Yeah,
That's what I'm getting at from this whole thing.
agreed. I didn't quite understand. There was like a vague point of her thread that I was like, I understand / agree that, like, let's not all hate on every aspect of the show or hate on the Buffy Spike relationship. I was more like, mostly because I ship them, that she started off saying, like, hey, let's not hate on their relationship, saying that it's completely toxic, it's so awful, blah blah blah, and put the Buffy and Angel relationship up on a pedestal. And I was like, I agree with that.
Yeah, same, because that was toxic in its own right.
It was toxic for other reasons.
Yeah.
But my thing is that, like, when you are growing up, and let's just still think about it, she's still, Buffy's like, at this point I think she is 21.
Yeah.
So she's 21. No one at that age, and especially younger, has ever made a really wise decision when it comes to who you sleep with.
Yep.
And who you have relationships with.
Yep.
Because those are two different things. But also, like, you have to, unfortunately, go through a lot of shitty times in order to, like, realize the good things in life.
Yeah. Well, and the good of what a healthy relationship is and what you want.
Yes. And the reason I ship Buffy and Spike is that they seemed to want to grow together.
I was gonna say, yeah. I mean, fast forward to the next season.
Yes. And that's why I put them together. But back to my original point, that episode is completely 1000% out of character. There could have been any other reason for Spike to go off and to put the final nail in the coffin, so to speak, of his decision to go get his soul.
Yeah.
There could have been any reason, anything. Like, people were trying to argue, saying like, oh, well, David Greenwalt, one of the producers, was never really a fan of Buffy and Spike, so he like wrote this really awful scene for him. And I'm like, that makes absolutely no sense.
No.
Why would any of the other writers like go along with that reasoning? But also, I argue with the writers of that episode, why the fuck would you write that in general? Like, you could, like, just based on...
Suppose I would have to... I'd have to dig through, and I should have saved it to see... do my research to see if this was, like, a legit article or interview.
Mm-hmm.
But somebody had posted on, like, one of the Facebook pages that we're on, like, a snippet from an interview that they did with Jaws about, like, what the fuck.
Mm-hmm.
And they were just like, listen, like, it wasn't meant to be... taken as bad as like as it was, but basically like Spike's still an evil creature, and I like you guys need to remember that, and I wanted you to hate him. But again, like you said, I mean, it could have just been like a betrayal or them getting into like an actual physical fight. You know what I mean? Like something along those lines. They didn't have to go there.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, there are a lot of unforgivable acts that could have happened, but I feel like that was definitely not one of them that had, like, I don't know. It did not need to happen. None of it made sense. It was also out of character for Buffy to get bested by some rando vampire. That happened once before, when that's why she went to Spike to ask how he had killed those other two Slayers, but then for it to happen again, and then for him to just be like, no, I'm going to make you feel it. The fuck?
Yeah.
Like, the fuck? And then for like it didn't look like that bad of a scuffle for her to get bruised as much as she did after all of the fights
Yeah.
that she has had with multiple demons and all this, that, and the other thing, getting like shit thrown at her, thrown through walls and all this, that, and all that shit. And then for that to happen, and for others, like Xander specifically, to see that and to be like, no, I'm gonna fucking kill her, like, blah, blah, blah. And like, Xander hated Spike to begin with.
Yeah.
But it just, none of it was believable character and situation wise.
No, I think out of every season, every episode, like that episode, I could just skip it. It just doesn't make any sense. It definitely is like the blemish on the whole series.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. But I mean, again, like for whatever reason, that's what they decide to fucking do. But he goes to get his soul. But you think he's finally going to go, like, he wants to be done with it. He wants to be able to kill her. He's going to go get this chip out, which, again, looking back at it, when you start to think about it, doesn't make any sense because he doesn't need the chip out to kill her anymore.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make any sense either of, like, why, I mean, as a youngster, I was fooled as well. Like, the logic didn't click.
Oh, yeah, no. I was like, no, he's definitely going to go get the chip out.
That he doesn't need out anymore for this one specific task.
Yeah, no. But, yeah, and then you find out throughout the next couple episodes that he's doing trials to get his soul back.
To be a better man.
For Buffy.
That doesn't want anything to do with him. That used him the entire time.
Yes.
Like, I'm sorry that one instance doesn't absolve her from her just using him as, like, a usable dick.
You started off strong with that.
I did. I really did. And then I was like, oh, it just it's a fucking train wreck.
Like that one scene in Fleabag where she's just like going off on the husband.
Oh, yeah.
And then she's just a wiki. Fuck.
Yep. Anyways, but you get what I mean.
Get caught up in the lights. Anyway, yeah, but I agree. Like, a history of using him and him kind of like putting up with it.
Putting up with it, and every once in a while putting himself out there of just like, like this could be more, and you kind of want more. Otherwise, why would you still keep coming around? And not just for dick, but like to also confide like emotional comfort as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's just like, I don't know.
Like, he's trying to shoot his shot, and then she keeps shooting him down. And then that uncharacteristic event, loathsome event happens. And I remember reading an interview of James Marsters about that scene. He's like, I fucking hate that they asked me to do that.
Yeah.
He's like, there's nothing that I loathe more than rapists and anything relating to that. And I couldn't have hated myself more doing that. I'm like, I don't blame you. 'Cause like, as an actor, you have to try to put yourself in some kind of mindset, and not in those same circumstances of why you think it's justifiable to rape, but like a different set of circumstances of why you feel compelled to do.
You have to make it believable.
Yes.
You have to get into that mindset.
Yeah. So that was loathsome. So I will forever be mad at Joss and the writers for that.
I'm sure that's probably got to be like one of the top questions that they get constantly, or complaints they get constantly from the show.
Yeah.
And rightly so.
Oh God, yeah.
But if you think about it, though, not about that particular team, about the relationship in whole, like, if Buffy had just either taken a step back and was like, reevaluated the situation of what she was doing with him, and either was like, you know what, that's kind of fucked up, like, I need to heal in other healthier ways and move on from this, or hey, this could be a really great thing because I got this guy who like takes me as I am 100%, calls me out when I kind of need it, but is definitely there and wants to be better and wants me to be better and just embraced it. Could have been a beautiful fucking thing.
Could have been.
Could have been.
And I think it, like, just like with any person going through a huge major transition in their life, it's not something that happens overnight.
Yeah.
So this whole season for both of them was a learning experience, and you do have to go through a lot of ups and downs, and perhaps more downs than ups. Like, that you have to go through all that shit in order to kind of like come out for the better on the other side. And I think next season their relationship is in a different space then. Because by that time Spike actually has his soul.
Yeah.
And things are a little bit different, and he has to deal with fully the consequences and the weight of what he's done in the past. So
that's a huge thing. And to wrap up this episode, discuss what I feel is the actual big bad, aside from Warren. So, we discussed before, like, the trio trying to fucking basically, like you said, be a thorn in Buffy's side, her constantly, foiling their plans. They had made her invisible at one point, and this is when everybody had called out Willow's bullshit of, like, being a fucking magic addict. So she's not able to use magic to figure out that the invisibility thing that they gave her will eventually turn her into mush.
Yes.
So Buffy so I will just one comment on this. One of my favorite episodes of them together is this episode. But especially though, like, this is supposed to be for like young teens. So Xander's,
there have been many instances in this show where,
but like this was like, all right, so she's invisible, so obviously, like, she's like, fuck yeah, like, I'm gonna have some fun with this, scaring people, dicking around or whatever. So of course she goes and like goes to Spike's lair, and they're getting it on. Xander's looking for Buffy, so he goes down, and Spike's obviously just going to Pound Town. And Xander's like, what are you doing? He's like, just working out. What do you think? Just because I'm
push-ups.
Yeah. It's like, okay, whatever the fuck. So says that Buffy isn't there. He leaves. So one of these instances where Spike's just like, you know what, this is ridiculous. Like, I'm too embarrassed to tell people about me. Like, I'm tired of this. And then you just see him go, oh, wait, that's not fair. And just look like she's obviously just going down on him. Like,
hey, that's cheating.
Yeah.
Like, it's
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, I mean, even at that age, I was like, oh, damn, she's sucking his dick. Like,
yeah, you're like, oh my god.
anyways. So, throughout this, though, Willow, like you said, is basically on everyone's shit list. Her and Amy start to get kind of close, and Amy introduces her to this warlock who basically can just get them like drunk off of magic, and he very much takes to Willow, kind of knowing that she's already very powerful, and the potential that she has.
Yeah, he's kind of like a drug dealer that takes it's not necessarily clear what he gets in return.
Yeah.
So he gets them high, and what I assume is does something with them.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah.
Sexually, or like gets into their minds or something like that. It's not, I don't think it's that clear what he does, but he's not doing this out of the evilness of his heart. He's getting something in return.
But it escalates to the point where she's constantly going there for like a fix, which ultimately, like, her and daughter are supposed to go see a movie. She's like, hey, the classic, like, I'll be right back. Just sit here for a minute. Hours later, she comes out. And I think it was in that episode, too, where she accidentally conjured some type of demon, like, from her fear, essentially. Because I remember her, like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're trying to, like, you know, obviously they're going back to the car. Willow's obviously, like, fucked up. Dawn notices. They end up, like, in a car trying to go away from this demon, wreck the car. Buffy shows up and it's just like, you know what? Like, I'm fucking done. I'm fucking done with this shit. And Willow just breaking down of just like, I tried it so hard. I tried. I can't stop. Like, and I lose it every time I fucking watch that episode. Yeah. Like a baby. So I think that's when she really, like, legitimately starts to take this seriously of, like, you know, stop using magic. Like, I have a fucking problem. This is, like, not okay.
Yeah.
They start to slowly, like, she's starting to obviously show an effort. So people are starting to notice that, like, she's finally taking it seriously. She's definitely trying to get on the straight and narrow. Her and Tara start to, you know, kind of rekindle things, start to show that, like, she's trying. And all the while, Buffy is, like, fucking destroyed every single plot that the trio has had, to the point where Warren just gets to the point where he shows up, again, very much like a human characteristic, and shoots Buffy.
Yeah.
And accidentally, because I think Xander tackles him, shoots Tara.
Well, he ends up running away, and he's firing as he's running away. So he shoots Buffy in, like, a non-lethal area, but ends up fatally shooting Tara. And
it's abrupt as fucking hell. Like, you don't see that shit coming.
Oh yeah, no, that's how the one episode ends. Just like that episode, she's dead. Boom. And then, like, flipping a switch, Dark Willow. So she vows to take down the trio, and she goes full Dark Willow, absorbs every dark magic book that the magic shop has.
The warlock.
Absorbs the warlock, yes. And goes on a killing spree.
Skins Warren alive.
Yeah. It was pretty epic, though. She, like, chases him down, has him tied up between two trees. He's, like, pleading for his life. And then she's just like, bored now. And then flays him.
So, and then she takes it to the next level after that, to decides to raise an old satanic church or something and basically destroy the world.
Yep. Yeah.
It's like a 3-episode
Yeah, because
thing with her.
she's trying to chase down Andrew and Jonathan, and then there's like a huge one of the things that we've mentioned before when Giles comes back and gives her a smackdown, and then that she eventually breaks free of that and then goes and tries to destroy the world. And then Xander, with one of the better speeches
Yeah.
in the show, uses humanity and uses the his humanity to bring her back to Earth, essentially. He's just like, I love, crayon breaky Willow, and I love scary, veiny Willow. I just love it all.
Gets me every time too.
Yeah.
Because she's fight. Because obviously, as soon as he's there, she's like, "Hey, what you doing?"
Yeah.
Like, just kind of casual, just like two friends talking, and as she's like raising this fucking church from the ground.
Mm-hmm. And she's trying to like beat him down, and he keeps coming at her.
But
and
you
she's
could just
like,
tell though that like she immediately feels something the second that he shows up, and she's just fighting it so hard to not feel. But and I think honestly, like that whole, like with Warren doing what he did, and then that whole scene kind of like sums up for me anyway, the kind of underlying theme of season 6, where it's just humanity. Like it's just us being very flawed beings that magic and supernatural things can't help at all. Like we just need to have that human connection and just those feelings. And I kind of feel like, aside for and taking us to very dark places as just the human psyche does. And that has, like I said, it has nothing to do with magic, and it's something that magic can help. We just need to kind of break it down and have those connections with the people that we love and let that connection bring us out of whatever we're going through.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think I love personally, Dark Willow. She's such a sadist. She's such a badass, and she's so powerful. But she's obviously, I mean, like the big bad. It was somebody that, again, Buffy couldn't fight, despite of all of Giles' borrowed magic, couldn't beat either. But he knew too that like that was the only thing that could bring Willow back, was just that connection, that love.
Yeah. So he knew, and that's why it just, at any time, Allison Hannigan cries.
Done.
No matter what show, movie, whatever she's in, if she cries, I cry.
Yep.
Every time. But yeah. So that's our little thing on season 6.
Yep.
Again, a lot of people have their issues with it because of how different the big bads were, and the fact that like one of the big bads was one of their own, and it was like a very real human thing that she was dealing with.
Yeah. It was a lot of loss, and I don't know. I just personally, I love the season. I think it's great, and I think it was just not what we viewers were used to. That was one of the many reasons why people didn't like it.
Yes. And I think you can appreciate it more if you watch it as an adult.
Yes.
So, our next Buffy episode will be on the last season. And there are a lot of things that happen in that season, too. The end of an era.
Yeah.
But we'll be discussing other Buffy things after that. Don't you worry.
Never ending.
Never. We could talk ad nauseum, make it a separate podcast. Who knows? But, yeah. So stay tuned for that. And if you like our vibe, please like and subscribe. And all of our social medias will be linked in the description box down below. And we'll see you in our next episode. Bye.